Thank you, Brent. As we went around the room, we get to hear all the stakeholders that were here. I was relieved not to have anyone here from the Middle Rio Grande, so I feel like I get to be the expert. But then I realized our principal deputy commissioner has been working there for 12 years, so if he jumps in to correct me a few times, I'll understand. So Middle Rio Grande consultation update. I am going to start off with an apology because, first of all, I'm going to give away the ending to this story, and I'm going to stick pretty closely to my notes because we are in litigation already on this consultation. So that's where I'm going to stick pretty closely to the wording. By way of background, Reclamation and its non-federal partners, which is the Middle Rio Grande Conservancy District and the New Mexico Office of State Engineer and Interstate Stream Commission, we've all have been in formal Section 7 consultation since our last biological opinion expired in March of 2013. So it's been a little while. Fortunately, there was a clause in the previous biological opinion that extended coverage under that biological opinion as long as we're in formal consultation, so we feel like we're covered there. And also, by way of background, in our previous biological opinion, we had the Corps of Engineers with us. They have a couple dams in the system, and they have made an agency determination at this current time that they have no discretion to regulate water flows for the benefit of endangered species. So they are not in formal consultation with us at this time. So what are we consulting on? First of all, let me give you our definition of Middle Rio Grande. You all probably have different definitions of Upper, Middle, and Lower Rio Grande. There's a variety of them out there. Where our consultation covers is the watershed of the Rio Grande from the state border between New Mexico and Colorado down to the full pool elevation of Elephant Butte Reservoir. And just to give you some context there, in case folks don't know, there are no water storage dams on the Rio Grande. Reclamation operates 2 dams on a tributary to the Rio Grande, which is the Chama River. And one of those dams, its sole purpose is to import water from the San Juan Basin. The other dam does store native water in the tributary system there. So that's the geographic location of our consultation. What Reclamation's consulting on is that San Juan Chama project water operations and the Middle Rio Grande project water operations, which are those 2 dams I just described. And the Middle Rio Grande Conservancy District is seeking coverage for their irrigation operations. The Office of State Engineer is seeking coverage for the administration of surface and groundwater resources in the Upper and Middle Rio Grande, and the ISC's Interstate Stream Commission is looking for coverage for their Rio Grande Compact administration and their river maintenance activities. And I should add, Bureau Reclamation has a river maintenance program as well, and we're seeking coverage for that under this consultation. So there's the context. Some of the key issues that we have, it has been a long road, so key issues from the past, present, and where we're headed. I'll list those. First, this consultation is taking place under a historic drought. About over 10 years we've been in drought conditions in the Rio Grande Basin. And because of this drought, one of our listed species, which is the Rio Grande silvery minnow, has, to use the services language, is considered severely imperiled. So we have a species that's struggling because of the drought in the backdrop of this consultation. Fortunately, the Middle Rio Grande Endangered Species Collaborative Program has been operating for these 10 years, and they have improved habitat conditions at lower flows and invested in 3 propagation facilities to protect against the extirpation of the species. And so we literally do not have all of our eggs in one basket, so we're happy about that. Another key aspect of the consultation is the desire of all the parties to transition from a prescriptive biological opinion environment where the services listed out everything they're wanting us to do towards an adaptively managed recovery implementation program. So we've been working on designing the new program and working on that transition while we're as part of this consultation. And part of that recovery implementation program is we're seeking that we're working with the service so that they'll make that the conservation measure in our biological opinion to address the degraded environmental baseline conditions of the river. So some technical language there, but I think you get the gist of what we're after. The final issue or current aspect of the consultation is what I gave away in the beginning is we are in litigation. After we received 3 notices of intent to sue. The Wild Earth Guardians pulled the trigger in July and sued Reclamation and the Corps of Engineers, and they have notices of intent out for the Middle Rio Grande Conservation District and the state of New Mexico. So we'll see how that plays out. We had been thinking for the last year or so, we had an idea we were going to be sued, and we were dreading that day because we thought it would drive all the parties back to their corners and they'd hide behind their attorneys and we'd have trouble making progress. But it's actually been the opposite effect. We had an initial reaction to that, but it's really pulled the parties together and given us more resolve and a renewed energy to get through this consultation and get it done. So that's been beneficial in the end. We'll see how it all plays out. So what we have the work to do to get across that finish line is we're working on a revised biological assessment, and there's about 4 new things we're putting in there. First is we're looking to clarify and simplify the proposed action. We really want to tell the story of the Middle Rio Grande because a lot of the activities that us and our partners undertake are beneficial to the river. Having irrigation water in the system in the middle of the summer is preventing having a dry channel in the middle of the summer. So we're really wanting to step back and tell that story, and instead of approaching the consultation like we're harming the species, we want to really tell the story about the good things that we're doing as well. So that's one aspect we're working on. We also want to clarify the duration of the coverage. We were initially seeking a biological opinion with no expiration date because it was going to be an adaptively managed program. And we've realized with climate change out there that that's problematic for the Fish and Wildlife Service to analyze in perpetuity the impacts we may be having, not knowing how the climate's going to be changing. So we're stepping back to put a timeline on that. And Stefan may know, I don't know since I've been up here if we picked a timeline, but we're thinking 10 or 20 years, somewhere in that range. We're also working to further front load with a few more beneficial activities. During this time that we've been in consultation, we've been able to figure out what the service is really looking for. So we're trying to front load some of those activities and make stronger commitments to the things we know they're looking for, like improving the flexibility of water operation activities that benefit the species. And one of their dams, they do have a dam on the Rio Grande, but it's just a flood control dam. It doesn't store water for municipal or irrigation use. And we need more flexibility on their operations for releasing water in a hydrograph that will benefit species instead of just passing water as it comes to them. And we're also working to establish a conservation pool of water that can be used for environmental purposes, as we don't currently have that. We're looking to increase commitments to better align the habitat conditions with the flows, with the consideration that we've had this 10 years of drought. Maybe we need to lower river channels so that the flow works in conjunction with the habitat and the geomorphology on the river. So we're increasing our commitments there and better defining what progress will look like for river connectivity. And we're considering that both sediment passage. There are some diversion dams that the Middle Rio Grande Conservancy District uses to divert water. So we were looking for better sediment passage so we're not degrading and aggrading the channel above and below dams, and that'll also pass fish. So we're better defining what progress towards that will look like. And then finally, what we're working on in the BA is since our last draft, there were 2 new species listed. So we do need to include those species in our biological assessment, and that's the New Mexico meadow jumping mouse and the yellow-billed cuckoo, listed or about to be listed. So we are on track to finalize our BA before the 2015 irrigation season. So the group's working hard, the team's working hard, both Reclamation and our non-federal partners, to update that draft with everything I just talked about, and hoping to have a BO sometime next summer. So wish us luck. With that, I'll introduce Barry Longwell.